Doing this review thing, I count myself as pretty lucky all the time. I get to listen to a whole bunch of really cool gear that I ordinarily wouldn't have had a chance to listen to. And in these reviews, I try to keep it pretty light. I'm not overly technical. I treat it more like, hey, I'm your buddy that just got a whole bunch of new gear and I have no one else to talk about it with, which is usually the case in my day-to-day life. But this time, I was uber excited for this review. After doing the House of Sound in New York and checking out all that really cool Sonus Faber gear and some Macintosh gear, I was like, I can't wait for one day that I can get a hold of Sonus Faber speakers. And chief among them was the Lumina series, because they are the most attainable of Sonus Faber's lineup. And so I've requested them multiple times, and finally, at long last, I got some in for review. And I thought that they would send me like the Lumina 2s or something like that. They went ahead and sent me the Lumina 5 Amators, not the regular ones, the upgraded ones. And they also sent along the matching CI center speaker for a full 2-channel, but also home theater review. Well, pseudo home theater review. And, you know, that's what we're doing right now. The Lumina 5 Amator is a 3-way floor-standing loudspeaker system with a vented box design. That means the bass port is on the bottom of the speaker, which means you can pretty much place this speaker anywhere because you're not worried about the back wall at all. It's just all going into the floor, which is kind of cool. The Lumina 5 Amator has an upgraded crossover network at 2.85 kHz, up 250 Hz from the original Lumina 5. The other crossover is still at 260 Hz. Which means that the mid-bass driver on this speaker does the brunt of the heavy lifting. The tweeter is a 29mm high-definition DAD damped apex dome driver. There's a 6-inch paper cone mid-bass driver and 2 6.5-inch sandwich diaphragm cone drivers. Frequency response is 38 Hz to 24 kHz. Impedance is 4 ohms. Recommended power amplifier is 50 watts to 300 watts. And they weigh just under 50 pounds each. And they retail for $34.99 US a pair. The center channel speaker, the Lumina CI, is a low-profile vented box design. It also comes fitted with a rubber pad at the bottom to help decouple it from whatever surface it's sitting on. You also get the same 1-inch tweeter sitting between two 4 3/4-inch mid-bass drivers, and the crossover is at 2 kHz. Frequency response for this speaker is 65 Hz to 24 kHz. Sensitivity is 87 decibels, impedance 4 ohms, and the recommended power is 30 to 100 watts, and it weighs 16 pounds. And these retail for $7.99 each. Sonus Faber speakers scream luxury, and this speaker is no exception. Just leather-wrapped speakers. That's it. Like, it may be faux leather, but it's leather nonetheless, and these speakers scream luxury. They just look so amazing. If you count yourself as an audiophile or you just like looking at speakers, then if you have a chance, just go take a look at these in person. They just rock. And I mentioned to my editor, Carlo, where like, I don't know if I can do these justice on video because I have fairly novice video skills, but like when you see Sonus Faber speakers in person, they just look great. They're available in gloss red, wenge, and walnut, all with a high gloss finish on them. They look spectacular. I probably said that too much, but they look spectacular. I love them. I love them to death. I'm sorry. I really didn't want to send these phones back. The front baffle is cool. The wood grain is on a 45-degree angle emanating from a vertical center line. The wood baffle from the side looks like a high-end skateboard. It's like multiple layers of wood all sandwiched together and sanded down and finished really nicely. Just all the feels. The back of the speaker is completely flat, matte black. And really, who looks at the back of the speaker? The bottom of the speaker is a plinth to which iron spikes are fitted. The iron spikes decouple the speakers from the ground, allowing the port at the bottom to do its thing. The spikes look nice, and they supply these little round spike catchers to protect your floors from the spikes. But man, like getting these speakers into place, like the iron spike catchers do catch the spikes, but like if you try to just kind of shove your speaker over to the side, one of the spikes uncatches and it just totally dents or scratches your floors. I scratched mine. I got to figure out a way to fill out that scratch because, like, you know, the guy that owns this place to get pissed off. But yeah, that's my least favorite thing about these speakers, those iron spikes. They're really sharp, and they mess up your floors. So the speakers do come with magnetic grills, but given how beautiful the speakers are, I just kept the grills off when I was listening. I set these speakers up in pretty much the same place that I put every other speaker that I get in for review, 8 inches away from the wall on either side of my media stand, about 8 feet apart, paired with the Marantz Cinema 70, with the front left and right going to the Cambridge Audio Evo 150, with my B&W 610 sub, Apple TV 4K as the source, my Q Acoustics 3020Is as the back surrounds, and that's about it. Oh, I could have used my Alva TT V2 turntable that I do for every other review, but I just didn't listen to any vinyl for this review. So these speakers were clearly not brand new when I got them. I believe other people reviewed these speakers prior to me getting them. So from the jump, the benefit of that is they were already burnt in. And from the jump, they sounded amazing. And I remember speaking to my editor, Carlo, about like, what is the Italian sound? Or does Sonus Faber kind of follow suit with Italian sound? And the word that we kind of came to was like complementary. Like, these speakers are complementary to your music. Like, they are there to make your music sound good. They're not there to be sterile, clinical studio monitors. That's not what these are. If you want that, just buy something else. But like, if you want to play your music and you want it to sound great, these are the speakers for it. And these speakers do everything else too. They're agile, they're articulate, they have nice bass depth, they have a nice, beautiful mid-range. They have all the detail that you want from your music, but it just sounds good. It's like, it just sounds better through these speakers. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Playing tracks like The Weather, Shelter, and The Darkest Hour from Lives. I love Lives, I think she's awesome. But the mids really took over here because this is vocal music after all. And her voice sounded huge through these speakers. And when the rest of the music kicked in, it was just this full enveloping sound. It was really rich in character. I really like that. And then switching gears to the Paradox remix of Luminous from Synchro. This track is like a mellow-ish drum and bass track with pretty frenetic drums, but not in the way that I would think that most people would think of drum and bass drums. Like, they're really articulately programmed. Is that a way to say it? Like, Paradox has a way with drums. And because the mid-range on this is really, it's not pronounced, but more, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, that grit and texture on the drums is ever more noticeable. And I really love the way this track sounds on these speakers. And of course, when the bass does kick in, the sub helps out with the low end. But like, oh my God, it just sounds so big, so full, so amazing. I can listen to this track over and over again through these speakers. If you have a chance, give it a listen. I was curious on how the 4 3/4 inch drivers on the center speaker matched up with the larger drivers on the floor standard, because just in my non-engineering brain, I just figured that like having similar drivers lead to a more cohesive sound. But since I'm not engineer, I just found that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because the center matched up really well with these speakers and everything sounded great. And I didn't notice any lack of cohesion between the fronts and the center. I watched episode 4 of Dark Matter back, where they hop from world to world, and since the show is mostly dialogue with the male voice being that lower, gravelly sort of voice, I found that his voice had a lot of texture and grit to it and body. And when they did end up jumping from like one world where like things are falling apart to buildings falling down, like the impact of the buildings falling was really, really cool. But one scene what was really cool is when they opened up the door to the world, spoiler alert, where there's no atmosphere. And like, it's really quick, but like, essentially it goes from like loud sounds to like the sounds kind of sliding out and muting, if that makes any sense. And like hearing everything kind of suck out and then come back again was really nice. I really like that scene. And then switching to the wormhole scene from Interstellar, one of my favorite scenes to test out a home theater system with. And like when the shaking and the rattling and the everything all happens, it's a full-on, nicely immersive experience. And then when the rattling stops and the dialogue comes back through, it's nice and clear and intelligible. yeah, nothing really sounds bad through these speakers. The only other speaker that I had on hand that would be somewhat comparable to this speaker is the Focal Thiva 3DS. It is less than half the cost of this speaker. It's not an adequate comparison, but since I started talking about it, I might as well compare them. The big difference between this speaker and that speaker, other than cost, is the fact that the Thivas have an Atmos module built into the top of the speaker, where if you're going to talk about immersion in a surround sound package, that wins the day just because of that Atmos module. But when it comes to music and the richness and the way it makes you feel when you're listening to music, the Amators win all day. Look, I absolutely love these speakers. Everything sounded lush, warm, rich, complimentary, and I could see myself living with these as my permanent 2-channel solution into the future. But I'd be curious to see, like, for the longest time, the Silver 300 from Honor Audio was sort of my high watermark as far as price to performance in a floor standing speaker. And I'd be curious to see how those fared against this speaker, because they both look great for different reasons. But like, which one would I actually gravitate towards? And I feel like, A, this would make a great review, but also like, it could be a pretty good battle. Maybe in the future. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.